Why would you save me after everything?
Because mercy is stronger than revenge.
Listen closely. What you're about to hear happened on a planet nobody talks about. A woman was dying in alien waters. A man made one choice. And suddenly, everything humanity knew about survival changed forever. This isn't just a rescue story. This is about power, control, and a ceremony that could reshape entire civilizations. Here's what shocked me the most. The man who jumped didn't know he was starting a chain reaction that would make governments nervous. The woman he saved wasn't just any alien. She was connected to something bigger, something hidden. 3 things you need to know before we go deeper. First, this rescue triggered an ancient ritual that only happens once every 1,000 years. Second, what happened after changed how 2 completely different species saw each other. And third, one simple act of courage became humanity's greatest hope or its biggest threat. The truth behind this story will make you question everything. So let me show you exactly how this happened. On a world far from Earth, under skies that nobody from America or the UK had ever seen, something ordinary was about to become extraordinary. The water was black. Not like night black, but like ink black. Like the color of secrets. Marcus had been walking the shoreline for 3 days. His mission was simple. Observe. Report back. Don't get involved. He was human. They were aliens. The rules were clear. Stay separate. Stay safe. But nothing goes according to plan. The first thing Marcus heard was the sound. Not a scream. Not exactly. It was something between a cry for help and a song. A sound he'd never heard before. It made his chest tight. It made his hands shake. Without thinking, he ran toward the water. That's when he saw her. She was pale, almost silver. Her hair was white, but not like old age white. Like starlight white. Like the color of something that didn't belong to this world. Her armor was gold and silver, covered in symbols he didn't understand. But her face was clear. Her eyes were wide. And she was sinking. Marcus didn't have time to think about protocols. He didn't have time to call for backup. Every second she was underwater was a second closer to gone. The water was colder than he expected. Colder than anything on Earth. It burned his skin like fire and ice at the same time. But he kept moving forward. His legs pumped. His arms reached. The black water rose higher and higher around his body. She saw him coming. Her eyes changed. They went from terror to confusion. She probably didn't expect a human to jump in after her. Maybe she thought humans didn't care about aliens. Maybe she thought she would die alone. Marcus grabbed her hand. Her skin was smooth. Smooth like silk, but warm. So warm. He pulled hard. His muscles screamed. The water fought back like it didn't want to let her go. Together they moved toward the shore. It felt like moving through time itself. Like every movement took forever. Like the water was endless. But Marcus didn't stop. His body was freezing. His mind was clear. There was only one thing that mattered. Getting her out. They crashed onto the sand gasping. Both of them coughing. Both of them shaking. Marcus lay on his back looking up at a sky that had 2 moons. 2 moons and stars that spelled out constellations he'd never seen before. The woman sat up slowly. She looked at her hands. She looked at Marcus. Then she looked at the water behind them. Her mouth moved, and words came out. Not English words. Not human words. But somehow, Marcus understood the meaning. She said something that translated to gratitude, to shock, to recognition. That's when everything changed. The sky above them started to glow. Not with sunrise, with something else. Something alive. Colors began appearing in the air. Purple, gold, silver, green. The light moved like liquid, like it had weight and intention. Marcus stood up slowly. His training told him to run. His instinct told him to protect her. He chose to protect her. He stepped in front of her body, shielding her from whatever was coming. But nothing attacked. Instead, the light surrounded them both. It was warm, not burning, warm like a blanket, warm like home. And in that moment, Marcus felt something shift, something deep, something that had no name in any human language. The woman stood up beside him. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was calm. She was focused. She was watching the sky like she was reading a message written in light. Marcus didn't know it yet, but that moment on the beach changed everything. That moment when he jumped into the water. That moment when he chose a stranger over protocol. That moment created a connection that would reach across galaxies. The ceremony was beginning, but Marcus didn't know what a ceremony meant. He didn't know what it would cost. He didn't know that saving one life would put all of humanity in the balance. He only knew one thing. She was alive, and he had done something right. The light faded slowly, like a candle dying, like a sunrise in reverse. When it finally disappeared, Marcus and the woman were alone again on the black sand. But something was different. Everything was different. She looked at him with new eyes, eyes that seemed to understand him in a way nobody ever had. She pointed to herself and made a sound. Not a word. A sound that felt like a name. Like identity. Like who she really was beneath the armor and the mystery. Marcus tried to repeat it. His human mouth couldn't make the exact sound. But she smiled. And in that smile, he saw something he hadn't expected. Kindness. Hope. Recognition of what he had done. She pointed to the ruins in the distance. Tall structures made of crystal and metal, twisted together like they were dancing. Like they were frozen mid-motion. Marcus knew those buildings. Every human soldier knew about them. They were government buildings. They were where the aliens made their decisions. The woman gestured for him to follow. Marcus hesitated. His training was screaming at him. This was a trap. This was exposure. This was everything he was supposed to avoid. But when he looked at her face, he saw something that overrode his fear. He saw trust. Pure trust. They walked across the black sand together. Two beings from different worlds. Two people who should have been enemies. Walking side by side like they had always done this. Like it was the most natural thing in existence. As they got closer to the buildings, Marcus started to see movement. Aliens everywhere. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They had different shapes. Some had wings. Some had extra arms. Some looked almost human, except their skin was blue or green or colors that didn't have names on Earth. But when they saw the woman, everything stopped. The crowds went silent. It wasn't a scared silence. It was an awed silence. Like they were watching a miracle. Like they were seeing something they never thought they would see again. An older alien approached them. His face was lined with age. His body was taller and more elegant than the others. He looked at the woman, then at Marcus. His expression was unreadable. But then he bowed. A deep, respectful bow. That's when Marcus realized something profound. This wasn't just any woman. This was someone important. This was someone powerful. The older alien spoke to the woman in that strange language. Long sentences. Complex words. The woman responded. Her voice was different now. More confident. More official. More like someone used to giving orders. Then she turned to Marcus. And for the first time, she spoke in his language. Her accent was unusual. Her grammar wasn't perfect, but her words were clear. She said, "You saved me. You saved the air. You saved the future of our entire civilization." Marcus felt his knees weaken. Air. That word meant one thing. She was royalty. She was important in ways he couldn't calculate. She was the next leader, the next voice that would guide her people. "I didn't know," Marcus whispered. "No," she said. "You didn't. You jumped into the water for one reason only. You jumped because it was right, because someone needed help, because you are human. And humans, according to our oldest stories, still remember what it means to choose kindness over safety." She walked closer to him. Her armor caught the light of the two moons. She looked like she was made of starlight herself. "The ritual is beginning," she continued. "The ceremony that happens once every 1,000 years. And you are part of it now. Your choice has bound us together. Your jump has started something that will change everything for both our peoples." Marcus didn't understand all the implications yet, but he understood this. He had done something bigger than himself, something that would echo through history, something that would make governments nervous, something that would make philosophers question everything. He had jumped into the water to save one life, and in doing so, he had potentially saved an entire species, or maybe changed the balance of power forever. Maybe both. The ceremony started at midnight, or what counted as midnight on this alien world. The two moons aligned in the sky, creating a phenomenon Marcus had never witnessed. The light from both moons mixed together, creating colors that shouldn't exist. Gold and purple and silver, all swirling together like they were dancing. Thousands of aliens gathered in a massive amphitheater carved from living crystal. The walls were transparent, showing the sky above, showing the two moons, showing the beginning of something ancient and powerful. Marcus stood beside the air. That's what they called her now. The air. Like it was her official title. Like her individual name didn't matter anymore because her position transcended identity. She wore ceremonial robes now, different from her armor. These robes were made of material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. They rippled with every movement. They glowed with internal light. She looked like a goddess. She looked like the future itself made flesh. An elder stepped forward. His voice was deep and resonant, filling the entire amphitheater without any microphone or technology. Just pure sound, pure authority. He spoke in the alien language, but somehow Marcus understood. The words appeared in his mind, translated. Like his brain was being rewired in real time. Like exposure to the ceremony was giving him abilities he never had before. The elder described the ancient law, a law that was older than their civilization, older than their written history. The law stated that when someone from outside their world saved the air, a bond was created. Not just any bond, a bond that connected two civilizations at their core. The air stepped forward. She took Marcus's hand. Her skin was warm. Her grip was strong. She looked directly into his eyes and spoke. "In front of all our people," she said in his language, "I declare that you are no longer a stranger. You are no longer an outsider. You are bound to our world now, and our world is bound to you." The amphitheater erupted in sound, not like cheering, like the sound of 1,000 voices singing the same note, harmonizing, creating something bigger than any individual voice. Marcus felt something shift inside him, like his DNA was being rewritten, like his cells were being upgraded. It didn't hurt. It felt like becoming more, like gaining abilities he never knew were possible. He could suddenly sense things, sense the emotions in the amphitheater, sense the history of this world, sense the weight of the decision that was being made. A human and an alien, connected by ceremony, changing the trajectory of both civilizations. But not everyone was happy. In the shadows of the amphitheater, a figure watched, a military commander with scars on his face, a warrior who had fought to keep humans and aliens separate, who believed that contact between species led to contamination, to weakness, to the end of everything his civilization had built. His hand moved to a device at his side. A weapon. An old weapon. The kind that could disrupt the ceremony. The kind that could kill the air and blame the human. The kind that could start a war and destroy any possibility of peace between worlds. But he waited. He watched. He wanted to understand what was happening before he acted. Because if he struck too early, he might fail, and failure wasn't an option. The ceremony continued. Marcus and the heir stood together as the ancient words were spoken. Words that were binding them not just to each other, but to the future of both their species. Marcus didn't know about the weapon, didn't know about the threat, didn't know that his choice to jump into the water had created an enemy as powerful as it had created an ally. He only knew that something profound was happening, that humanity's fate was being decided not by generals or governments, but by one simple act of courage on a beach beneath 2 alien moons. 3 days after the ceremony, Marcus was taken to a restricted chamber deep beneath the Crystal City. The heir brought him herself. No guards, just the 2 of them walking through corridors that seemed to defy physics. Hallways that were longer on the inside than the outside. Doors that opened by sensing intention, not physical touch. The chamber was a library, not like any library on Earth. The books weren't made of paper. They were made of crystallized information, solid knowledge that could be touched and understood. When Marcus placed his hand on one of them, information flowed into his mind. Complete understanding, complete context, complete history. He learned everything in moments, learned about the heir's civilization, learned about their power, learned about why they had come to this world, learned about what they were searching for. They were looking for connection, for empathy, for proof that intelligence and compassion could exist in the same being. The heir told him that her species had become isolated, that they had stopped trusting other civilizations, that they had begun to see the universe as empty of meaning. But then humans showed up. Clumsy humans, confused humans, humans who often made mistakes, and one human who jumped into the water without calculation, without strategy, without self-preservation, one human who chose to save a stranger. That action, the heir said, is rare in the universe, more rare than you understand. Most intelligent species learn to ignore suffering. They learn that survival means isolation. But your species, despite everything, still tries to help, still chooses connection over safety. Marcus asked the question that had been burning in his mind. Why tell me this? Why make me part of the ceremony? Aren't you putting your world at risk by trusting me? The heir smiled. Yes, she said simply. But that's the point. True progress requires risk. True peace requires vulnerability. We could stay separated. We could maintain our security. But we would never grow. We would never become more than we are. She showed him visions in the crystallized information. Visions of what could happen. Timelines. Probabilities. In some futures, the 2 species became allies and created wonders beyond imagination. Technology and art and philosophy that transformed both civilizations. In other futures, they remained separate, and both species slowly declined into irrelevance. The ceremony doesn't guarantee anything, the heir explained. It only creates possibility. It only opens a door that was locked before. What happens next depends on choices. Your choices. My choices. The choices of both our peoples. Then she told him about the commander, about the military faction that wanted the heir dead, about the political forces that opposed any connection with humanity. They will try to stop what we started, she said. They will use every weapon they have. They will tell stories about contamination and corruption. They will paint you as a threat. Marcus felt a chill run through him. Will they succeed? I don't know, the air said. That's what terrifies me. That's also what gives me hope. Because we don't know the ending. Anything is possible. We could fail, or we could create something that lasts for millions of years. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He stood on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City and thought about his choice. He thought about the moment he jumped into the water. He thought about how that one decision had created consequences that were spreading outward like ripples, affecting billions of beings across two different worlds. He thought about responsibility, about the weight of being the symbol of something bigger than himself, about what it meant to be a bridge between worlds. Down in the city, lights flickered, thousands of aliens going about their lives, living their routines, not knowing that their entire future was balanced on the edge of a knife, balanced on whether peace could survive the forces that wanted to maintain war. Marcus understood now. This wasn't just a rescue story. This was a test of whether two species could choose collaboration over conflict, a test of whether one act of kindness could reshape civilization itself. And the outcome was still uncertain. The attack came without warning. Marcus was walking through the market district of the Crystal City, watching aliens of 100 different species trading goods, sharing culture, existing in harmony. The air had wanted him to see this, to understand what peace looked like, to understand what they were fighting to protect. That's when the weapon discharged. It was a device of terrible power. It didn't use bullets or lasers. It used something worse. It used disruption. It unmade the bonds between molecules. It turned solid matter into dispersing particles. It was designed specifically to destabilize the ceremony's effects, to sever the connection between Marcus and the air. But Marcus felt it coming. The ceremony had changed him in ways he was still discovering. He could sense intention now, could feel danger approaching like pressure in his mind. He grabbed the nearest alien and pushed her to safety, then dove for cover. The beam passed over him by inches. It hit the market behind him. 50 aliens disintegrated in an instant, turned to nothing, erased from existence. Chaos erupted. Screaming, movement, the sound of weapons charging, the sound of a society under attack. The air appeared in the chaos. She wasn't afraid. She was focused. Her expression was grim but determined. She pointed toward the source of the attack, an elevated platform where the military commander stood, the scarred warrior who had opposed the ceremony since the beginning. He wants to prove that humans bring only destruction, the air said, her voice steady as crystal. He wants to show that trusting you was a mistake that cost our people. He's killing them to prove his point, Marcus asked, watching more beams of disruption tear through the market, watching more citizens turn to nothing. Yes, the air said, because he believes small price now prevents a larger catastrophe later. He believes humanity will contaminate our culture, that eventually you will lead us to ruin. Marcus looked at the commander, really looked at him, and in that moment, he understood something profound. The commander wasn't evil. He wasn't acting out of malice. He was acting out of fear. The same fear that had kept Marcus's people isolated from this world for so long. The fear of the unknown. The fear of change. The fear that trust was weakness. Then Marcus did something that surprised everyone. He stepped out into the open, where the commander could see him clearly, where the weapon could reach him. He put his hands down to his sides, unarmed, undefended, vulnerable. Do it, he called out. If killing me proves your point, do it. The air tried to stop him. No. This is madness. It's not, Marcus said. Watch. He walked forward slowly, each step deliberate, each step a choice. The commander raised the weapon, aimed it directly at Marcus's chest. The beam charged. The air crackled with power. The weapon reached its maximum charge. And then the commander hesitated. Because in that moment, with his weapon aimed at an unarmed human who was walking toward him voluntarily, he had to confront what he was really afraid of. He was afraid of being wrong. He was afraid that maybe, just maybe, connection between species wasn't contamination. Maybe it was growth. His hand trembled. The weapon wavered. In that hesitation, everything changed. The air moved with impossible speed. She covered the distance between them in a blur. She didn't kill the commander. She didn't even harm him. She simply disarmed him, simply removed his ability to continue the violence. The command fell from the platform. Military forces rushed forward to secure him. The disruption beam stopped firing. The market square was silent. Hundreds of aliens staring at Marcus, staring at the air, processing what they had just witnessed. A human choosing to trust even when he was under threat. A human choosing vulnerability over violence. The air walked back to Marcus. She took his hand again. The same gesture as the ceremony, but different now. Now it meant something more. It meant they had survived together. It meant the connection was stronger than fear. You saved my life twice, she said. I didn't save your life, Marcus replied. I saved his. I gave him the choice to be better than his fear. And in that moment, Marcus understood what the ceremony had really been about. It wasn't about binding two civilizations together through ritual or power. It was about creating the possibility for compassion, for seeing the other species not as threat, but as mirror, as reflection of what all intelligent beings struggled with. Fear, hope, the desire to connect, the desire to protect. The news spread across both worlds, human and alien. The story of the rescue, the story of the ceremony, the story of the market square, and the commander who chose not to destroy. Some believed it was the beginning of a new era. Others feared it was the beginning of the end. But everyone agreed on one thing: nothing would ever be the same again. And it had started with one simple choice: one human jumping into the water to save a stranger. But here's what most people don't realize about that moment in the market square. Marcus later discovered that the commander's hesitation wasn't random. It wasn't just doubt or emotion. The ceremony had changed Marcus in ways that extended beyond his own senses. His presence itself had begun to affect those around him. His choice to remain vulnerable created a field of vulnerability around others. It made it harder to act with violence. It made compassion literally more possible. The air understood this. She had known it all along. She told Marcus that this was the real purpose of the ceremony. Not just to bind him to her world, but to spread a ripple of compassion across both civilizations. One act of kindness had created the conditions for millions of acts of kindness to follow. But she also warned him, this gift comes with responsibility. With every day, the effect would grow stronger. More people on both worlds would begin to feel the pull toward connection, toward choosing compassion over conflict. But there would be those who resisted, who feared what this meant for their power structures, who would fight back. The true test was just beginning. So here's what happened. A man jumped into the water. A woman was saved. A ceremony bound two civilizations together. And a single act of courage rippled across worlds. 3 takeaways that matter. First, one act of kindness can change history. You don't need to be powerful or famous to create impact. You just need to choose compassion when it's hard. Second, fear is the real enemy of progress. Not between species, but within ourselves. The commander's fear was about control, about certainty, about a world that stays the same. Third, vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the most powerful force in existence, because it makes connection possible. If this story opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button, because I'm exploring more stories about humanity's place in the universe. Stories that question everything we thought we knew about survival, peace, and what it really means to be human. Drop a comment below. What would you have done if you saw someone drowning? Would you have jumped in? Why or why not? Your answer tells you something important about who you really are. And if you want to go deeper into these ideas, join our community. Link in the description. We're exploring the philosophy of compassion, the science of connection, the future of human civilization. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay kind,